welcome back to my channel. I'm Alicia and I make sewing and DIY fashion videos. So I'm back from my break and ready to upload again, and today I have a sewing tutorial. We're going to be making a tiered dress with huge puff sleeves. So I actually challenged myself to make this in one full day just because I had something the next day and I impulsively decided to make it the day before. Usually it takes me about 3 or 4 days to finish a piece, but I was actually pretty surprised that I got everything done in a day. It's pretty easy to make and I hope you'll enjoy the process. So I made this dress out of a bed sheet that I found at the thrift store. It has this beautiful vintage pattern with some little roses across, and you're also going to need about ½ meter of lining. So let's get started with the tutorial. Starting with the skirt, it's basically divided into these 3 long rectangles. Just cut out the tiers following the measurements from the last slide. The third tier is 100 by 7.5 inches, the second one is 67.5 by 13 inches, and the first one is 45 by 13 inches. And you can put those aside for now. For the sleeve, I traced it from this puff sleeve dress. If you don't own something with a similar sleeve, you can just trace this sort of rectangle and connect the 2 ends with a curve. Place it on the fold of the fabric, pin it, and cut it out. And then repeat for the second sleeve. For the top, I followed the pattern from my corset tutorial. I link it in my bio, and the only adjustment I made was to shorten it to my waistline. Trace it onto the fabric. Also, I wanted to change this curved neckline to a straight one, so I just drew a straight line across, and then cut it out. Repeat the same thing for the side piece, and make sure that the 2 pieces are mirrored. Also, cut out the same pieces in the lining fabric. For the back, I copied this tie back from a dress I had. If you don't have one, just trace the side piece of the corset pattern and elongate it to this rounded rectangle. I traced it onto some pattern paper and add ½ inch of seam allowance. You'll need to cut 4 of these. Now that all of the pieces are cut out, it's time to sew. Starting with the bodice, place the side pieces to the front, right sides together, and sew the seams. Repeat for the lining and lay them right sides together. Sew only the top of the center front, then flip it so that the seam is hidden inside. For the back, place the pieces right sides together and sew the ribbon part. To make it easier to turn over, slim down the seam allowance and cut little slits like this around the curve. And then just flip it inside out. I like to use a barbecue skewer or basically anything pointy to flip the curved edge. Give everything an iron and place the back pieces to the front and sew the side seams. And the bodice is complete. Now moving on to the sleeves, open them up and place them right sides together and sew the side seam. Place the bottom of the sleeve to the armhole like this, aligning the side seams. Pin the sleeve until it reaches the end of the armhole. Also, I made the seam allowance of the sleeve to be 1.5 inches, so the sleeve should overlap the armhole by 1 inch. You can see the overlap better here, but that's so that we can make a casing and add elastic. To make the casing, fold in the edge of the sleeve twice so that it's about 3/4 of an inch and pin it like this. And then sew it all around. We're also going to make a casing for the hem of the sleeve, but this one will be a bit smaller, about 1/4 of an inch. And next, measure the amount of elastic you need to fit your shoulder. I like to add a couple extra inches and then adjust it when I try it on, so I started with 15 inches. And since I didn't have ½ inch wide elastic, I cut a ½ inch wide elastic in half, and yes, you can do this as long as you cut in between the elastic threads. And then cut 1/4 of an inch elastic that fits comfortably around your arm. Attach a safety pin to the end of the elastic and pass it through the opening of the casing till it reaches the other side. and pin it. Leave a little gap for the hem of the sleeve and insert the elastic through it. Same thing as the shoulder elastic. Try it on and adjust the length of the elastic if needed, and then sew everything in place. And the puff sleeves are complete. This is how the top will look like. And now for the last and easiest part, the skirt. Fold all of the skirt tiers in half and sew the side to make a loop like this. We're also going to need to sew a basting stitch to the top of each tier to gather it. But for the first tier, you only need to sew a basting stitch to the front because we'll be adding elastic to the back. And also hem the bottom of the third tier with a skinny double hem. And now to gather the fabric. So basically, take one of the threads and pull on the fabric and it'll start to gather. For the first tier, gather it until it fits the front and make sure that the back has no gathers. Also gather the second and third tier all around. Place the first tier right sides together to the front of the top and sew. To make the casing for the back elastic, cut a long strip of fabric that's 1 inch wide and pin it to the back. Sew the edge in at 1/4 inch. And then fold it up and fold it towards the inside twice to create a casing. And sew as close as possible to the edge. Insert the elastic through the opening on the side until it reaches the other end. Pin it and sew it down. And the back is done. Next, to place the second tier right sides together to the first one, adjust the ruffles so that they fit perfectly and sew. And finally, repeat the same thing for the last tier. And we're done. And here's the final transformation. For watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you decide to recreate this, make sure to tag me on Instagram at Ali Jansen, and also follow me on my social media on TikTok and also on Instagram. I'll be posting a lot on this dress because I love it so much, so make sure to go check that out as well. And of course, subscribe to my channel for more DIY and sewing tutorials. And yeah, I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!